Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Ketchup. This is our monthly review of all the games we've purchased over the last month, and going to give you a brief overview of why we bought them, what intrigued us about the game, what caused us to part with our hard-earned money to get these games. I have 4 games to go through this month. And how many did you say you had, Dean?
I have four as well.
So we've got 8 games to go through. There's very unlikely to be crossover on this. So because Dean and I don't like the same style of games.
Well, I probably already own the ones you bought. I just have not taken them out of shrink.
Exactly.
Or maybe even the box they were shipped in. You don't know.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to start this time. So the first game that I picked up is Alhambra Roll and Write. Now, why did I pick this game up? Alhambra was always one of my go-to, introductory games. It's one I got the big box for, one I really enjoyed. And I figured, it's a roll and write. We'll kind of see what it's like. Roll and writes are kind of wearing a bit thin for me, but I figured with a name like Alhambra, and it says Dirk Hein on here as well, and it's the designer of the original Alhambra. So I'm hoping this is going to be a decent game. The game plays 1 to 5 players. I question that. It's really a 3 to 5 player game with 1 and 2 player solo variants. You basically comes with sets of blue and yellow dice, little player mats that kind of look like this. So this is kind of tracks all the different types of buildings. So one person's going to be responsible for this during the game. And it's going to basically show you the different buildings we have up here and how much it's going to be worth if you're the first, second, or third place and having the number of buildings. The actual player boards themselves kind of look like this. And the idea of the game is everybody's going to have a yellow and blue die. They're going to roll it, and they're going to basically put the blue die up here and the yellow die down the side. And there's going to be an intersection. That intersection is the building you can build. If you decide to build it, you cross it off on your board, and then the person would mark it off here that you've also built one of those buildings. If you are the active player, you're going to get a second yellow and blue die, and you're going to roll both of those, and you are going to put all 4 dice, the 2 blue up here and the 2 yellow down the side, and you're going to pick which intersection you want to take. You can only cross off a building if it hasn't been already crossed off. Whichever 2 dice you're using to cross off your building are the 2 dice you're going to keep, and you're going to take the other 2 dice and pass them to the next player, who now is going to be an active player, but you keep those die faces the same. So if I had a 2 and a 3 blue, and I had a 1 and 2 yellow, and I used the 2 and 2, I would keep the 2 and 2 and give the other ones to Dean, and he would keep them with the same face up. The ones I kept, I re-roll and place them back on my board. The other option you can do is get coins, and you would look at, again, if you're the active player, you're going to look at where all 4 dice cross, and for every building that's crossed out, you're going to get a coin, which you're going to mark off over here. Coins can be used to either, 1 coin can modify 1 die value by 1 pip. You can't, it's not cyclical though, so you can't change a 6 into a 1. Or you can spend 3 coins and use both sets of dice to build a building. The game is going to be tracked down here, across the bottom here. So that's how many rounds you're going to be playing. So if you're playing a 1, 2, or 3 player game, you're going to go all the way to the end. It's going to be 18 rounds, and it's shorter for 4 and 5 players. Each time first player takes their turn, they're going to mark a cross off. Now, the reason why I say it's a 3 to 5 player game, because that dice rolling mechanism is kind of weird in a 1 or 2 player game. So if you're looking for a roll and write game that's not just solitaire, because quite often it doesn't matter how many, you'll say 1 to 99, because it's just you rolling dice and seeing what a good score you're going to get. This one, you actually are competing against other players. So the decision on which building to mark off, quite often you're looking at that central board saying, is it worth me doing this one or that one? I don't know whether this is one I would recommend rushing out and getting. The downtime in between turns is quite bad. Especially, I've only played this with 3 players, but I could see with a 5-player game, because when you are not the active player, you've got nothing to do. You just sit there watching other people take their turn. A lot of other roll and writes have kind of counteracted that by, if you're not the active player, you get 1 die, or you may have the option based on what the player rolled to do something. This, doesn't matter. You just kind of waiting for your turn to go. So it's nice and colorful. It is, because it is so colorful, it's kind of hard to tell, to match up the buildings. You almost have to look at it's not like this is a blue building, this is a yellow building, this is a red building, and it's very easy to see that. They look like real buildings. So you kind of have to look at the roof color and the kind of stuff around it to determine whether, oh yeah, this is a red building. So look at the main board and do that way. So now a ringing endorsement. The game's fine. But if you like Alhambra and looking for another version of it, this has very little connection to the original Alhambra. If you're looking for roll and write games, you really like that whole how they're quick and they kind of engage everybody. That's not what this game is. It's unfortunately it is called a roll and write, and that's what I was expecting from it. But it's more of a standard game than it is what I would consider a roll and write game. So that was my first purchase, Alhambra roll and write.
Yeah, I've never played the original Alhambra. I always say I want to, but I don't own it. I know you do, but I think it's been out for so long now that it just kind of gets overlooked. Although the big box, I mean, God, there's got to be what, 10 modules?
There's quite a few in there. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So I have 4 games. I have a couple of older games, a couple of newer games. But the first one I have is called The Little Flower Shop. So The Little Flower Shop, it's a Dr. Finn game. And that's the only reason I got it. It was actually a throw in and I bought a bunch of games from a person, and this was just kind of a throw in there. So got it for dirt cheap. Don't know anything about it. It's still, the cards are still in shrink. So it's never been played. This is one of the game boards. Pretty basic. Not a whole lot on there other than some spaces to put your, let's see, I guess it's this way, to put your flowers. This is a card drafting set collection game. It's a 1.5 on BGG. It plays in about 20 minutes, and it does play 1 to 4 players. I think it says it plays best at 4. So, I don't know if it's going to be any good or not. I do tend to think that Dr. Finn games aren't bad for the most part. They're generally okay. They're pretty solid. I don't know if I've had any that are just like super wowed me, but I definitely, when I see them now, I at least kind of, I give them, I'll give them a look to kind of see. I have another one that I bought and I haven't played it yet. And I can't remember, I had never even heard of the game before, but it was a Dr. Finn game. Like, I'll pick it up. It looks a little meatier than this one. This one is pretty light. The artwork looks cool. I don't know. Like I said, it's set collection and it's card drafting. So, I mean, I don't think it's going to be that hard to grasp or understand. The artwork looks good. It's got some good pictures of flowers. I mean, I don't know if they're hard to draw. I'm not an artist, but they look pretty good. And other than that's it. That's all I can tell you about it. It's like I said, very light, plays fast, plays up to 4, and it's got a cool box cover. I mean, that lady looks really happy to be smelling those flowers or selling them.
So what was the overriding reason for getting the game? Was it because you just needed something as a throw-in, or was the theme intriguing, or was it just because it was a Dr. Finn game?
Well, primarily it stood out to me because it was a Dr. Finn game, and it was a throw-in in the fact that I think I paid I think he wanted like $5 for it. So I'm like, all right, fine, give me, because I was picking them up in person anyways. So when I was paying the shipping on it, if I had to pay the shipping on it, I probably wouldn't have gotten it. It probably wouldn't have been worth it, especially by itself. But yeah, for $5 and no shipping, I'll take a flyer on it, especially with it being Dr. Finn.
Yeah, because you and I have played several Dr. Finn games on Tabletopia, and they've never wowed me, but they've all been pretty solid games. Some of them have been definitely better than others, but there's none of them that I'd say, oh, I really dislike that. They're all like, yeah, that was actually quite fun. So getting one for $5, yeah, that kind of makes sense.
Yeah, and I'm trying to think of the other one that I think I told you about it, and I can't, I haven't played it yet. Let's just see if I can see if I see the title of it. But it was the Seas of something. What the heck was that called? Sorry, it's gonna drive me crazy if I don't look at it real quick. Scripts. Nope. Oh, well, I'll keep looking at it. You go on to your next game.
Okay. So my next game is one called Botanic. It's a mixture of mechanical and botanical in a word. It's a It's a two-player only placement game, and very little components because of that. You've got a main board. It kind of looks like that, and there's going to be common tiles in the middle, and each player is going to take one side of the board. That's where your tiles are going to go. The tiles are, they're fine. They're relatively small. I mean, that's a picture of a blue pipe tile. You've got some flowers and vegetable tiles that kind of go on the end of pipes, and it's a game about building up pipes. There's different colors. So, like for example, that was a black pipe. You've got like a set of green pipes there. I think there are 5 different colors in the game. And for other components, you have, that's the first player marker. And it is metal. Can you hear that?
Yeah, classy.
Yeah, and I don't know why it is, but that's the first player marker that's going to go back in between each person. And then my version that I bought at my local game store said it was a limited edition, and it comes with a metal coin for no reason. There's nothing gameplay wise. To my wife and I use it to flip it to see who's going to go first. It's put out by Space Cowboys. They have a range of 2-player games, so this is a 2-player only game, and that was one of the reasons why I got it, because especially right now during this time, Lel and I are playing a lot of 2-player games. The art really didn't. I know Dean said you kind of like the art. I'm not a big fan of the art on this one. I thought you'd said that you enjoyed that.
I mean, yeah, from the pictures on the game board, I don't like that cover. That lady freaks me out.
Yeah. It's like I said, I've played it once or twice already. It's an interesting game. It takes 20 minutes to half an hour to play. 2-player only game. It's not that difficult to learn. You're only going to be doing. You have 2 options on your turn, so it's very easy to teach. It's about laying pipes out and getting large groups of the same color pipes connected, and you're trying to screw over your opponent. I find that piece is not, I wouldn't say not critical, but it's very difficult to do like a gotcha move in this game. It's very difficult for you to mess over someone's pipe network. So if you're worried about, the person I'm going to play this with, it doesn't like very confrontational games, this one does have some player interaction for it, but it's not going to be horrendous. It's not going to be like, I'm going to play this tile to completely screw over your entire network. You may set them back a little bit. So I enjoyed my plays, but again, it didn't blow my socks off. But it's a decent 2-player game that I just worry about the longevity of it. So that is my second game, Botanic.
Yeah, I remember you talking about it the other day, and I think it sounds interesting, but I think any of those 2-player tile placement, whatever you want to call it, pattern selection, pattern, you know what I'm saying?
Yep.
I can't think of what I'm trying to say, but you know what I'm saying. I think those always tend to be a little more solitaire. I mean, especially with that one, I think you said there are 4 colors.
I think there's 5 colors in total.
Yeah, and it's like you and Lola kind of, or you picked your kind of couple you were going after, and Lola picked hers that she was kind of going after, and then there wasn't a whole lot of interaction. I think that kind of is the flaw of some of those games, but it looks interesting. All right, so my next game is another older game. Came out in 2017. I played it. I enjoy it. Never owned it. I can't remember if it was on sale at Cool Stuff or I just needed to fill a box. But I finally bit the bullet and got one of Rosenberg's games that I didn't own, but I do enjoy it, and that is Newsford. So if you don't know Newsford, I mean, it's pretty highly ranked. I think it's definitely top 500 on BGG, somewhere between there and probably 200. And it's one that you can play solo. One of the reasons I got it. It's also one that has a couple of expansions. So I picked up one of the expansions at the same time, one of the deck of cards. Not that I'll probably ever need to have that much variability, but it was there, and therefore I must have it. I should have bought, when I was in California, the game store out there had both the expansion decks, and I thought, well, I don't have the base game. Should I buy the expansion decks? And I didn't, because I heard a little Graeme in the background saying, you don't need it. You don't need it. You don't have the base game. And now look at me. Now I have the base game and I don't have the salmon deck, and I feel incomplete and inferior. So that's on you, sir.
Yeah, it's the main reason why you bought the games, because I mean, you and I have played, because I own New Sport, and we played it down at MogCon a couple of years ago, and I know you enjoyed it. So why did it take you so long to get it?
It was out of stock quite a bit, and I also just didn't know, if I would, how much play I would get out of it. But I think because everyone says, that it plays really well solo, that kind of put it back in my line of sight to want to try to pick it up. And they also, I think they were down to like 2 or 3 copies. So that game made me start to panic a little bit that, oh my God, if I don't get it now, I may never be able to get it. So yeah, I mean, don't judge me, whatever. I got it because I wanted it. It is, it's a Uwe game. It's a worker placement game. You're trying to, I think in this one, even you're clearing some land to build some buildings. You're dealing with the fishies and feeding, or you have to, was it feeding people, or as much as you're donating it like to the elders or whatever?
You have to feed your elders.
And to feed the elders. Yeah. So, yeah, I got this one. And then I don't know, I probably think I told you, but maybe 7 months ago, I finally picked up a copy of Agricola. I'm becoming like a Rosenberg super fan. Getting all the classics. So
yeah, but you'd like Caverna. So anyway,
I do. I mean, I'd like Rosenberg anyways, but this one, I don't know. I just never, either I never saw it or never thought about getting it. But now that I have it, it's still in shrink. It will stay that way for 5 years before I can break it.
Yeah.
All right. What's your next one?
Okay. So my next one is, since Dean was lamenting the fact that he didn't pick up an expansion, I went the opposite direction. I never buy expansions, but I actually bought It's a Wonderful World. It was Corruption and Ascension expansion. I really enjoyed It's a Wonderful World. It was one of my top games from 2019. Did it come out? I think it was.
At one time, it was your number one game from 2019.
It's no longer my number one game from 2019, but it's still like within my top 5. It's a game I really, really enjoy. It's a basic engine drafting game. So I'm not going to go through how the original game works, but I'll just show. I haven't. Look at this unpunched cardboard in my house. So
just, you know what you do? You just hold up, you just boom, just poke your finger, you just like shoot it right out of there. Let it rip.
This expansion comes with some counters. It comes with, of course, another deck of cards, because that's really the heart of It's a Wonderful World. Cubes, because you're going to be collecting cubes in the base game, so I'm assuming this is adding more to it. And this is what I find intriguing. There is a board, with an erasable marker. So it's kind of the plasticized board, but that's all you get in the expansion. So although the box is, this big, the components are like that in it. So there's a fair bit of empty space in there.
Will the base game fit in it?
I don't believe so, but this all might fit in the base game box. Well, so like I said,
that only matters for you because you don't throw expansion boxes away because you're a freak.
That is true. I do not throw them away. I don't throw anything away. But yeah, I bought this game because it's an expansion to It's a Wonderful World. I've been kind of waiting for it. I don't know much about the expansion, but this one just showed up in my local game store last week or 2 weeks ago whenever I put the order in. And I'm like, this is going to be an automatic. And there is another expansion which I haven't seen yet. And as soon as that one comes out, I'll pick it up as well. Relatively cheap. I think like 25 bucks Canadian for the expansion. And as you saw, I mean, it's basically another set of cards you're going to be playing with. I don't think there's anything majorly that changes up, but there's extra cubes in here because this also expands the gameplay to 7 players. Yeah, I've never played it with the maximum previous ones. And back of the box just kind of shows you the new cards that are coming with it. But yeah, so expansion to It's a Wonderful World, a game I really, really enjoy, which is why I picked up the expansion for it.
Yeah, I know there, like I said, you said there's another expansion. I can't remember what it's called, but I think Cool Stuff maybe had both of them. I know they at least had that one a couple of months ago. But yeah, I still haven't played it. I'll have to play it since it was your number one game of all time.
I don't think it was of all time.
Of all time of 2019. So, all right. So I ended up picking up a game. I don't know if you guys have even heard of it. It's a really new hot game that everyone's talking about. All the kids, it's all the rage. But I finally was able to secure a copy, and that is Catan. So this, I think it's pronounced Catan.
Yeah.
Catan.
Yeah. I'm not
Have you
sure how
seen
you
this
pronounce
one
that.
before?
Um, I think it's number one in the hotness on Board Game Geek, isn't it?
It could be. I don't know. I saw some hipsters talking about it online and some college kids. So I thought, what is that? And they pointed me in the direction. But I thought, you know what? I'm gonna pick it up and I'm gonna give it a whirl, because apparently there's all these random families on YouTube that are playing it and saying how great it is. And therefore my wife thinks it's going to be the greatest game in the world and she wants to play it. So that's why I picked it up.
Yeah, and that's a very good reason if your wife, because your wife is not a gamer. So if she's interested in a
Correct.
game, definitely pick it up and play it with her. Now, Catan was actually one of the first games. It's not the first hobby game I bought, but when I first started getting into the hobby and started buying them, of course, I bought Catan. So I own a copy. And, we always talk about when you early on in your gaming, you kind of everything is great and you just want to continue to buy and buy and buy. For my very first play of Catan, I didn't like it.
Well,
Um,
that bodes well for me then,
yeah.
doesn't it?
But then I don't like randomness.
Hmm.
And that whole die rolling thing, and we've discussed it before, and the group at that time, we weren't very good traders as well. That so with the die rolling plus a group that really wasn't into games that had trading in it, it didn't work with our group. But some groups is going to work fantastic for. And if you and your wife like to barter over, making a good deal, she might really enjoy it. It's just because of those two things, I never particularly liked it. And I know it's in now to hate Catan, but I still think that it's a decent game. It's just the two major mechanisms in it I'm not a big fan of, but that's personal why I don't like it.
Yes, Amy and I like to barter over everything. It was a standing kind of a joke that when when we would talk about going out to dinner, that I automatically would shoot down her first two, or she would shoot down my first two. So you always have to play the game because where do I really want to eat? I really want to eat here. So let's throw this one out first, because that'll get shot down right out just as soon as it comes out of my mouth. So yeah, you know what? I've never played it. I have it online. I've never even played it online through the Steam app. Um, so I thought, yeah, it was cheap enough. I'll get it, and let's just see if it's something that she thinks that she's gonna like. If she likes it, I'll keep playing it.
Yep.
I mean, how long does it play? I didn't even look. Is it less than an hour?
Like I said, it's been probably 7-8 years since I've played. I don't remember.
Yeah, there was one of the guys I was working with out in down in Georgia. He's late 20s, and we were talking, and he's like, "Oh yeah, it's like I used to play Catan all the time." He's like, "I'd like every expansion for it," and he's like, "We'd play it like I don't know, 7 or 8 player. I didn't even know that was possible." But I'm like, "Yeah, okay, you're way more into it than I am." So
Yeah, but I mean, it's a good pick. It's enough a lot of people into the hobby. So if it gets your wife into it, then
yeah,
you'll have more excuse to buy more games.
yeah, that's what I need.
Okay, so my last game is one called Lions of Lydia.
Hmm.
The main reason why I picked this up is because the designer Johnny Pack. I've
Johnny
enjoyed
Pack.
I have enjoyed some of his other games that he's put out in the last couple of years. He did the Western
Paloma.
game, yeah, Coloma, which I enjoyed. This one is all about the introduction of currency. So basically, of coins, of gold coins. So the game, of course, comes with a bag of coins. Now, unfortunately, they're not metal, but they're actually very thick cardboard. So they're good quality. And the other reason why I bought the game was not only was it a Johnny Pack game, but they said it was a bag building game. So you get little bags, and you're going to have different meeples, different colors of meeples. So these aren't player colors. These are the meeples that are part of the game. So there's 4 different colors. Each person is going to start with a one color of each one in their bag. The main game board is pretty small. that's the game board. That's the main game board of the game. And you notice around the corner, there's the different color gates that all represent the different colors of meeples. And then each player is going to have a player board, which is going to track how many of each type of resource you have. Again, they're all, I mean, these are nice, solid cardboard pieces. The basic game is you're going to be drawing a meeple from your bag. You're going to be placing on one of the, either one of the gates. And it doesn't, you don't need to match. So I don't need to place a blue meeple here. I can place whatever color meeple I want here. And depending on the other meeples here, you're going to be getting resources. So if I placed, let's say, a red one here, and previously Dean had placed a red one here, so there's 2 red and there's the blue gate, I get 1 blue resource and then 2 red resources because there's 2 red meeples there. As soon as there's a pair of the same color ones, those are going to go to the middle, the fountain area. At the end of your turn, you're going to take one of the meeples from the fountain, add it back to your bag. So your bag is always going to have 4 meeples in it. There are going to be some cards on each side of the board that are going to be end of game scoring or ones that are going to give you bonuses to going to certain gates. So you can purchase those instead of getting resources. And that's the two, again, it's 2 things on your turn you're going to be doing. You're either going to be, you're going to draw a meeple out of your bag and either place it in a gate to get resources or place it in the fountain area to buy a card. And then at the end of your turn, you take one of the meeples from the middle fountain and put it back in your bag. Dead simple. The game comes with a total of 8 expansions. And they're all kind of really super mini expansions. And they're quite simple. You can add some extra cards to the deck. You can add, I think it's a chariot racers, so they have a chariot racing here thing. So you could add just this to the game. You can add just another couple cards to the game. So each module is independent of each other. You can mix and match however you want, but each module is going to add just a few things to the game. I've only played the base game so far. I do want to play some of the expansions, but it is super, super light. I'm not sure what it's ranked on Board Game Geek, but when the first time we finished playing it, again, as experienced gamers or hobby gamers, my first response was, that's it? What else? But again, going back to why Dean got Catan, it is a fairly light game that still has some decisions to be made that I could see introducing it to your wife to. Because you're literally just taking a meeple out and you're going to do one of 2 actions with it. That's it. Get resources or use the resources to buy a card. And the cards will be things like if you send a yellow person to a gate, you get an extra yellow resource. Or if you go to the fountain, you get a coin, whatever else. Coins are wild in the game. And there are some gold meeples that come out that allow you to trade resources for gold coins. Fairly simple. Get resources, get cards. And when someone has so many built cards in front of them, game's over. Then you add up your points, and you're going to get points usually from the yellow cards you can buy. And those yellow cards are only used for end of game scoring. For each 2 coins you have at the end of the game, it's going to score a point. Or for each blue meeple you have in your bag, you're going to score a point. That type of thing. Very simplistic, but not in a bad way. Very simplistic to make the game approachable by a wide range of people. If you are a hardcore, Vital Lacerda, Lisboa player all the time, you're not going to like this game. It is too simple. But if you're looking for a game that's approachable by people that maybe aren't in the hobby games or are new to hobby gaming, this kind of introduces it, but understand that it's going to be a limited use. So you're going to play it a couple times, then I'm assuming you'll go, okay, what else is out there? Because this game is offering you a very kind of shallow pool, the shallow end of the pool, which is going to be fine for some people, but a lot of people kind of then start to go down that slippery slope into the heavier stuff, and you're going to leave this one behind. But good components. I like the designer and like a good intro game. So that was my last one, Lions of Lydia.
Yeah, I saw that one. It's actually been getting a little bit of attention on social media. I don't, maybe they're spending money on advertising, but I've seen several people talking about it, playing it. I do like the artwork of it. And again, I almost bought it at one point in time because it is a good intro style game, which, you know, has its place no matter where you're at. I mean, if you're, for me, it would probably be a good family game, but I've got a lot of family games right now that I'm still trying to get played. I don't know if I need another one to the mix, but
And I think that's going to be one of the downsides of it. I don't know if it really adds anything new and spectacular over an awful lot of other family games. If you don't have a lot, this one could be one that you could add to your collection. And without playing all the expansions, I don't see the expansions changing up the gameplay drastically. So it's not like it's going to convert it to a completely new game, which is going to have a completely new experience for. It's just going to be, okay, well, we've played the base game. Let's add the chariot racing to it, or let's add the extra action spaces. So it's not going to be, I don't see this replacing a family game. I think you'd add it to a rotation. If your rotation of family games is already huge, I'm not sure whether this one's going to kind of wedge its way in there.
Right. All right. Well, my last game is actually a new game, I guess, within the last couple of months. Definitely one that got quite a bit of buzz, or is still getting quite a bit of buzz, at least within certain circles. I guess the cool circles. No, I don't know. But that is Bayonets and Tomahawks by GMT Games. Oh, look at it. So shiny. So this is a GMT game. It's a two-player game. Well, it plays up to four, but it's a two-player game in my book. It's going to play 2 to 3 hours probably. And it is one that, let's see, is it going to play 2 to 3 hours? No, it's going to play 2 to 6 hours, I guess, if you play the full campaign. But it's got different scenarios, like you play the shorter game. So whatever. And it's a little over 3 as far as weight. So this is one that is first off, the game board is the mounted map board is absolutely gorgeous. I love the art in it. And it is one that it's going to be a GM, style game. You're going to have a separate rule book, rules of play, that it's got a lot of diagrams and stuff in it. And it's got different, it builds upon itself, but it's probably, 20 pages or so. And then you've got the playbook. So the playbook is about 50 pages. But again, it's got different scenarios, and because of that, it also gives you a ton of historical background and all that kind of stuff. Lots of examples. It takes the rule book and breaks it down into really good examples with lots of pictures. So typical GMT, they do a good job of that. It's got a couple of good cardboard player aids. And then what I do like about it is, besides the scenarios being in the playbook, it gives you these other player aids. So this is just for the British. It gives you 2 different player aids, 2-sided, and each one of them is a different scenario. And it shows you exactly where you're going to set up your troops on the map and give you all that information, so you're not having to share the rule book or share the playbook. It's going to put it out there so you can do what you need to do, and then you can reference it during the game. And so it has it for the British, has it for the French, and it has one for the Indians as well. And then, it's got 3 counters. Whoops, I just punched one. Oh my goodness, I just punched a counter by mistake. It's got 3 counter sheets, and the counters are pretty big. I mean, they're not very, they're not small ones like you would typically see. So they're decent size. And what I like about this game is that they're different shapes. So, and this is just an example, I don't have a shoe. So Indians might be triangles, and certain other troops might be circular. And then you have some that are square. So I do like the fact that they kind of, it makes them stand out better on the board. So you're not always having to lift everything up to see exactly what's underneath there. You can kind of tell by the shapes. Other than that, it's a French and Indian war game. It's probably this one, and then before that, I mean, there have been other French and Indian war games, but probably the best well-known ones would have been Wilderness Wars, which came out in 2001 by Volka Runka, which has now gone on to do a lot of the coin games. And then I guess what's the Martin Wallace one?
Few Acres of Snow.
A Few Acres of Snow. But it's a lot of the French and Indian war games that have come out since then tend to be a little lighter because the battles weren't huge by any means. But this one's going to be a nice meaty one. It's not quite as heavy as Wilderness War, but it's pretty close. I think Wilderness War is like a 3.2 something. This is a 3.15 maybe. So I don't think there's much difference between those two. I'm looking forward to playing it. I would say it's a good family game if I had a different, better family, but for the family I have, this this is going to have to be one that I'm going to probably end up having to find someone to play it in person or play it online or something. But I'm excited. I like the time period. I like the theater of war. Um, it's just, I don't know. The map is, if you get a chance, if it interests you, go look at it on BGG, because the mounted map board is gorgeous. Again, it's point to point movement, so it's not hexes. It's regions, but man, is it good looking?
I'll take your word for it.
No, man, you need to look at it. Get
Okay.
it printed out, hang it on your wall.
Oh, I don't do that.
Oh
I
no,
like
you'll
my-
3D print everything under the sun, but you won't you won't print out instead of a 3D printer, if I can get one of those big industrial like print machines that'll do like the 36 by 48s.
I was thinking you wanted to be able to print out the map in 3D. It's like have like a laser printer or laser cutter, piece of wood like this big, and have it, cut into terrains that you're actually going to be fighting in.
I have seen so the Academy Games game line, the 1775, 1812. I saw somebody, I think it was the 1775, where they took that and they made it basically a 3D terrain, and then they used miniatures on it instead of the cubes. It was at Gen Con one year.
Right.
And I walked up and like, man, what is this? This is cool. And then they were telling me what it was. I'm like, that is freaking awesome. That's a lot more work than I want to do, but man, it looks really cool. But at the end of the day, I can just put the board on the table and put the cubes on it, and it's the same game.
Yeah. Okay, so I think that's going to wrap up our catch-up episode for this month. So this is number 3. We've had 3 months that we're both buying several games, and I don't see that slowing anytime soon. So hopefully you've seen a game that you always want to know what kind of was in the box, have a look at the components, figure out quickly what the game is about. A lot of these games we will talk about on our main podcast, go into more depth into it once we've actually played them a couple times in our first bite. So I would encourage you to check out our podcast, or you can also watch the podcast on the YouTube channel. Yes, because you are watching this on YouTube. So yes.
Yeah. And if you want a written transcript of the podcast,
please send a self-addressed envelope.
Contact Graeme, and he will transcribe it for you.
And of course, this is made possible by our Patreon backers. So if you like these episodes or anything else we produce on the YouTube channel, we do have Patreon only podcast videos that we do as well. Those are twice a month. Check out patreon.com/bgbuffet, or just continue to enjoy the content that's on here for free. You don't need to back us at all, but we would appreciate it. And that's going to wrap up this episode. So until next time, thanks for watching.
See you.